the game. So today I want to try something new. I want to have some voiceover and see how that works. Let me start the level, the game. Now you can see the level shape. The level borders are shaped like a circle now. I think that fits actually very good for the idea that these are very small virus-like, bacteria-like things. And so if they're very small, then it's just be under the microscope, or it might be a drop of water under the microscope. And so I think the circular border fits much better and actually feels nicer. You can also see that when objects bounce off the borders, they move around much more naturally than the square borders I had before. I had to extend Liquid Fun a little bit to make that happen, but it wasn't too hard. That physics engine is great, but because there's sources out and all that, it's actually possible to make those little adjustments. That's great. So this is this T-shaped thing is a level exit like the other thing, but this one is actually leading to a different level. It leads to a small tutorial section, a few levels, so you can see how you can control the swarm. I can explain you that one in the tutorial level the easiest. So this is one swarm element, and you can have more, especially when you eat food, then they will grow and you will have a larger swarm. The swarm always goes to the spot where I'm clicking on, so this is all optimized for touchscreen game mechanics. And so I can control this one guy, and if I have a lot of them, then they all follow and try to also go to this spot. They fight a little bit with each other, but it feels kind of natural, and it seems to be okay. This is the level exit, so I have to touch that one to go to the next level. And these ones are wall elements I cannot penetrate, I cannot go through, and cannot eat them or remove them or hit them or shoot them. This is, I already have a larger swarm, more elements. I can move around. These ones are food elements. If I eat one food element, nothing happens, but once I eat 3 of them, they start multiplying up. So you can have a larger swarm. A larger swarm has more power, can punch better, and can also eat through those dirt elements easier. You see that they're dark gray. The dark gray ones are the ones that have had some damage, and the white ones are undamaged. If they eat dirt, they get damaged. They don't kill themselves. They stop eating before they would do that, but they're now vulnerable to an attack of some other element, of some other enemy. In this tiny little level, there's a little bit of water, so it shows how water works. See, it's slightly unstable, but I think it works pretty well. And there's also here some spring elements that are connected, and there inside of them is some food. So if you want to get that one, you can get it in multiple ways, but you can also just click on the exit. That's also... And you can see these little green dots here, the small ones, between the spring elements. That's actually the visualization of the connection. So that means this atom is connected with this atom through a spring that is sitting here between those two. So now it goes back to where the tutorial started, so there's a little cycle, and this level is, as before, very similar to before. I just have to touch that exit to go to the next level. This one has in the exit encoded the information that you have to collect at least 15 moons, which are those yellow things. So I need to get inside one of those things, which, because they're very thin layers, you can sometimes penetrate them. Another way of getting through those walls, sometimes it's not so easy, especially if they're thicker, is to hold on to them for a little while, like select one of them, and then they be one of my swarm element, or 2 of them in this case, became black. That's a bomb. Then you need to quickly go away, and then it will explode. Let me demonstrate that another time, but I need a few more elements. So let me grow a little bit. I need some food elements to grow. Otherwise, because every time you create a bomb, you're losing at least one element. So see, now that exploded. Now I can reach things that are inside here. And I can use that as long as I have a lot of swarm elements. Otherwise I need to have different tactics to go through elements. All the levels are actually still mostly for testing purposes. See, those ones are now all low health. We can let them regenerate a little bit. And once they fully regenerated, then I can get into the fight again. Oh, these yellow ones are, because they found some enemy, they sense the enemy over distance. That's why they become yellow, and then they walk towards that enemy that has a hard time going through here. I can visualize what they use to find other enemies. So if I press O in the editor, I can see the visualization, and the enemies find the swarm by following those green arrows. I call that smell. So there is a grid on top of the whole level that tells, so you can query at a specific XY position, where is the swarm? Where is, which direction I need to go to find to the swarm? And it's vice versa. For the other ones, the evil smell is is caused by the other element, by the other units, and they are actually useful for me to find enemies. So if I'm nearby these ones, it will happen in a second, they find these enemies, and so they find each other. That's the purpose of the smell. I think I will extend that a little bit further and make it seeing the obstacles as well, and then it could be reasonable good pathfinding actually. So I'm just eating through a few, or going through a few levels. They haven't changed much, but I got a few more things in the editor I want to show, and then that's about it. So let me just go next level. Okay, here's some pain units, and those ones can be quite deadly if you don't control your swarm, if you don't give it a lot of commands, because they just will walk up to those pain units. There's some rubber structures that can be moved around, can be useful, or can also explode, can get some pieces off if that's useful. Anyway, so let me go back to the editor. Okay, so in the editor, a few more things that I have is, well, I guess for fun, I can... This is how just some test level looks like, and if I want to have gravity, which is a big feature that is in Liquid Fun already, but I'm not using it normally, just if you want to see how that looks like, that kind of is fun, especially with this kind of fishbowl like geometry. Maybe in some places in the game I will use it, but generally I want to have it more like 2D top-down view, not so much jump and run side view, because that actually makes more like the strategy game that I had in mind. Okay, so gravity is possible here. I can change also the size of the level if I want to. What else is new in the editor? So here I have these draw rigid. They're kind of fun. Let me show you how that works. So I can make structures that are rigid now. Let me add a swarm, then we don't die when I go into simulate mode and press G, and then give me some food elements and can grow very quickly. So these rigid elements, when I touch them, see now they move very rigid. That's different from the rubbery kind of structures that I had before. And Liquid Fun supports that directly, I just never had supported it. And then if I want to connect them and make some more interesting structures out of it, and that's also possible, and I guess I will make use of that. I think that's kind of fun. Okay, rigid is new. Well, I can show one thing here that is interesting. If I'm drawing in a certain direction, I'm drawing actually the orientation of those atoms, or they're actually called particles in Liquid Fun. And I added that afterwards because I want to have an orientation, but I didn't fully integrate it into the physics engine. So only atoms that are connected to some other atoms, they get an orientation. But atoms by themselves that are not connected to other atoms, they don't have an orientation. So if I'm here, you can see when you zoom in that they have an orientation, that they rotate correctly with it. But if you have an element that, like these, these ones here, they're actually not rotating because they're not connected to anything else. So it's not ideal. Could be better if the whole physics engine would support rotated particles, which it doesn't yet. But I think it works pretty well for visualization, and for some particles it's actually really, really not needed. Like water shouldn't have an orientation in this case. At least I wouldn't have a huge benefit right now. Yeah, if I draw water, water is visualized in a completely different way. Orientation is not needed. That's more like a post-processing effect. There's a little reflection behind it, and water just doesn't need an orientation. Okay. I think that's about everything.